other things that you hate to see when folks come up to you?
Yeah, well, I do appreciate this conversation, and as Ron said, we work very closely to actually execute on this contract, and I'm actually proud in the sense. So my office is one of the new offices with the DOE that was created to deploy, these billions of dollars related to Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. But I mention that because, in standing that up, we've had to be very entrepreneurial in terms of this. And so, we've been building out the organization over the year, which works for me. My background's in entrepreneurship, banking, business. I was an entrepreneurship professor and all those kind of things. So I love the idea of ownership. But as a function of that, what this contract that Ron mentioned, he brought this company to us, and I didn't know the company, had never heard of them, and really became an advocate for them. Right, we found a way to look at the things that they do. They were very, very, concise and to the point about this is what we do. This is how we do it, and we were able to move to getting a contract signed, and it was actually the first. Now, we had other contracts that were already in place from some of the legacy programs we brought into the organization, but the contract that we signed just a few weeks ago at the end of September, it was the first contract that we signed as an organization, and it was with a minority-owned 8A business, right? And so that meant something to me from that standpoint. And so what I want to piggyback on something that Shalea said is that I want entrepreneurs to have imagination in terms of where they can fit, right? And I say that because every bit of the dollars, the nearly $17 billion that I have, has something called BABA on it, B-A-B-A, Build American, Buy American. Now the challenge is that because of the manufacturing ecosystem that we now have, a lot of times my grantees say we can't find these things in the U.S. So what I try to do is push entrepreneurs in rooms like this to say, well, why don't you think about filling that spot? Why don't you think about being a part of the domestic supply chain? Because if you break down all the things that these dollars can buy, it's a lot. And so I would encourage you to have imagination about where you can fit. Just because you've been doing this, you try to figure out how do you translate that over to something. These dollars that I have about a 10-year lifespan on me, so I'm a presidential appointee, Ryan. Even when we're gone, those monies will still be.
Whoa, I'm staying. I'm a full Fed.
Okay.
I'm a full Fed. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, look. These federal years feel like, as they say, dog years. So yes. It feels like it's been about 20 years. It's like, but yeah, I encourage you can't beat homework, right? Do the homework. Understand what the money is, the provisions. All these things are public. Go out and really understand how these dollars need to be spent, and figure out how do you position yourself into that lane to capture these dollars.
So what he's saying is do your homework when you approach the man. Don't try to educate him on CDFIs. He wrote a book on it. True story, right? So approach these folks in a way that's concise, that's clear, have your knowledge. But I will tell you, don't approach government employees and tell them what you need to be doing. Don't do that to us. We're committed. We're still human, right? When you do that, it puts us off. Like, what do you mean? Right? You got the answers all of a sudden, like we haven't been thinking about anything. They didn't hire us for nothing. So give us the chance to share with you what we do know, what we're aware of. The other thing is, don't say, do you know John Smith? DOE is the second largest organization. We have 15,000 employees. We have an additional 15,000 contractors that work for the department. I probably have no idea, right? The other thing is I want to remind you that representation is important. Ron and Dr. McCoy understand what it is to be reviewers or to be put against the wall to say they're the only people in the room that are black, that are male. Am I lying?
No, that's usually how it is.
So for me to be up here just in their ecosystem, the fact that they know my name is humbling. The fact that you are in this room, before you leave, you better know their offices. You better know what they can offer to you. Don't leave without figuring out how you're going to go after it, because the dollars are there. Dr. McCoy has 10 years of funding that has to be spent. Most of your dollars flows to states,
It
cities.
goes on the states, and so I did this at Ron's conference in New Orleans, encourage you to understand how the money flows, right, and where you fit in, build these relationships before you need them with these state offices and these other folks. So it's understanding how the money flows is a key part of this.
Do you all know what working agreements are? Do you guys know what this is? So you can establish a working agreement with a city or town and be committed to doing something that's not based on dollars, right? It's similar to an MOU. This is how you're saying, well, with a school board, for example, for one of yours, we call it a LEA, and I forget what it actually stands for.
Local educational,
Agreement, right? Yeah, something like that. But it basically is an agreement that you, as the person applying, has to have that agreement with the school board. If you don't have it, you can't even participate. So your relationship is actually what's going to get you through that first step. If you don't have that, you can't even participate in some of these opportunities. So thinking about that, if you weren't here today, would you even know? Right? So I always say this in anything, your network is your net worth. You gotta keep coming to these events. You have to be intentional with every networking event that you have. So I wanna go back. You were gonna jump in about funding.
I just wanted to add, one of the things that Dr. McCoy's office does, and in fact, a lot of the new offices that have come about within the Department of Energy through bill and IRA, is providing that navigation and being intentional about how you can follow the money. We throw that term around, but those offices, SCEP, OCED, that I've spoken to some of you about, the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation that we were discussing yesterday, they've put out roadmaps on where and how to follow the money. So building off of Shalea's admonition about being persistent, the tools are there to help you get there, provided by Dr. McCoy's office and the other offices, and I just want to make sure that you were aware of that.
Also, read your emails. I know that sounds really simple, but reading is truly fundamental. Government puts everything in writing. Like, if you signed up for the emails, that's the first line of communication we have. If you go to each of the individual offices and sign up for their newsletter, you will get it first. It's a default. Government is of the mindset of, if we build it, they will come. We're not spending money on advertising. You'll never see that. You just won't. It's your tax dollars that we would be throwing at advertising. And our philosophy is, we have a website, you need to read it. I can't change that with government. So the only other way that you can really get it first is through our newsletters. Sign up for them, figure out which office is the right office for you, and sign up and read them. Don't delete them. Do a word search.
Yeah, and I have so to that point, our Office of State and Community Energy Programs, and so we are kind of the first set up. DOE historically has been research and development largely. If you heard about the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer, all those kind of things, a lot of this has been driven by our national labs and things of that nature. With this deployment resources, it's about getting the monies into the communities, place-based strategies. That's why these kind of regional ecosystems and investment strategies are important from that standpoint. As Shalea said, every application that comes to us, we have over 28 programs that we operate. Of the 144 she mentioned that have Justice 40 around it, every one of those applications have to come in to us as a community benefit plan, a part of it that talks about, are you improving the community? Who are you hiring? Who are you procuring with? All those kind of things. So they actually have to report that to us. So it puts you into a position where you can have some leverage as you go in and talk about, this is what I can bring to the table. And I will say this, I think this is a classic example. We are in a lot of ways co-conspirators in this work, because you're dealing with a system, right? And when you're dealing with a system, you're dealing with something that operates in a very systematic way. And I have about $700 million that I use for technical assistance, right? TA. But I tell you what, I dedicate some of that money to how do I make sure that people in the community, other folks, are understanding what's going on. But also the other side of that is that investing in TA for our own grantees, governments, other folks, because we oftentimes we put it out to say, hey, I need you all to do this and that in order to do work with the federal government. But there's some issues on the other side as well, right? I need some government folks at the state level, the local level, or the federal level to understand how to do business with you all. And so they need technical assistance in that aspect. And so I think it's important that we are fighting both sides of the equation to try to make this work.
And you're the only office that has dedicated funds to nonprofits. You have a set aside of $10 million right now. Opportunity closes on November 27th. It's for career skills training. Essentially, you want to get in now, start looking at it. If you want to deliver this training, it's all related to clean energy. Just letting you know, you can work with a city or town, but you don't have to. It's designated for nonprofits.
Yeah, we have $260 million total for workforce development. Shalea mentioned the one that you can come directly at, and then again, a lot of it going to the states that you can do work on their behalf. But yeah, follow the money.
Yeah. So community benefits plan. If let's say you've got 2 box trucks, just example, right? And you're saying, how in the world am I going to go after these massive federal dollars? Community benefits plans is your get in. Because these big companies that are applying have to tell us, how are you going to work with small businesses? How are you going to make an impact in these disadvantaged areas? They have to list who they're going to work with and what they do. It's the first time in ever that we are going to hold folks accountable. So these big boys that always get contracts, they're going to be coming to you. But you should be getting ahead and going to them and saying, look, I know you're going to apply for it. You applied for it before. Why don't we work together? Now, what I'm going to warn you about, big players have big-time lawyers. Get an agreement with a dollar amount or a percentage. Protect yourself at all costs. Don't expect that they're going to do the right thing. There's people behind big businesses that don't care about you. You have to cover yourself. So anytime you work with a company bigger than yourself, please get something in writing, get it in front of an attorney, spend the money on, go to Southern, go and talk to the Southern Law School, right? Like, go to them, they're here, right? Like, Charlie's going to help you. She wears, I feel like 10 hats, but, right? Like 10 hats, but she knows who can help you. So do that in those agreements if you're not ready to jump into the federal pot yet. It's really, really helpful to get in on those community benefits plans.
And I say this, and again, we've been able to work closely. Even when someone comes to me and they have an idea, and I don't necessarily know whether it fits with me, I may send it to Ron's office and say, hey, look, talk to them to kind of get help. I want to advocate for at least a couple of things here. One is about the old notion of going where the hockey puck is going. And so innovation matters, technology matters, intellectual property matters, all those kind of things that gives you protection. I taught at North Carolina Central University, HBCU in Durham, for 7 years, leading the entrepreneurship program. I worked very closely with our law school to help think about, intellectual property clinics and things of that nature, because those end up being a lot of times the opportunities that we can kind of sit down with, and somebody has a unique offering that can address a problem or solve a problem, and allows us to think about how do we move down that path. And so I want to encourage you to think about doing things that really do separate you from the crowd, because when you have a ton of people that show up and they all have the same things, it becomes a whole different dance. And when you show up and you say, hey, even with the small business work that we do with Ron, and he works for SBA to get us folks, it ends up being, well, is this unique, right? Can you move quickly to do this work, or is it going to be a matter of, I can throw a rock and hit somebody doing this, and then it becomes a whole different dance. And so I encourage you to think about it. And to the point around the justice piece, in a world where the conversation is that justice matters, equity matters, I know that's, as Malik said, we're in a battle right now from that standpoint. The folks in this room and others are the best positioned to really look at and think about how do you actually create that real bridge into the communities, the neighborhoods, the households. And I want the HBCUs and the MSIs to be anchors in these communities. I want the businesses there to be part of that ecosystem. We're putting all these billions of dollars out there, and I want to make sure that this money is going into the ecosystem that can further develop and grow the pipeline and all those kind of things. So.
Okay, show of hands. How many of you are DEIA specialists? Show of hands. Nobody.
Depends on what you define as
Are you certified? Do you do anything in DEIA? No, right? 1, 2, you're certified. Okay, maybe 3. You don't count. You're at DOT, right? So you don't count either, MBDA. Raise your hand if you're a person of color. You too require a community development plan, right? Just because you're black does not make you an expert in DEIA. The A is for accessibility, by the way. We are holding everyone to the same standard. So we will want your DEIA goals. You are not exempt because you are a minority business. It might sound strange. You think, well, diversity is not my problem. I didn't create this problem, right? Doesn't matter. The red tape is for everybody. Just know that. Listing that you're a minority business is not solving the diversity issue that we have. You've got to have a plan. You have to submit that plan. And diversity, depending on where you are, may be that, hey, my entire workforce is black. I need to split it up. What does this look like to include folks from other schools and other institutions? You may have to do that, right? So I know that we have like 3 minutes left. Angela's going to kill me because you know she's timely, even though she's late all the time. We love you, Angela. We do. So, Ron, I will ask that you close us out with any thoughts, tidbits, things that they should know, things that maybe we didn't touch on yesterday.
I first want to piggyback off of what Dr. McCoy said about you can be entrepreneurial within the federal government ecosystem, and I've had a great couple of conversations with Blyton here. And so unsolicited proposals, you think you got something out there, we can take that in and I can help you with that. I think what I would leave you with is, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I will. At the Department of Energy, our leadership, Secretary Granholm's committed to this work and holding us accountable to change it. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting where we need to be more thoughtful, more conscious of making sure that the Justice for the initiatives and expanding opportunities for minority businesses and all opportunities is part of what we're putting on the street and trying to receive back. So it is a transformational time. Do not, I end where I started. Do not hesitate to use my office, make me do my work, help me do my work to assist you in navigating this big ecosystem. As I said, I love my job because I learn something every day. I hate my job because I learn something every day. But I just learned today that my counterpart, Tyra at DLT, they have something that I've heard about my whole life growing up in New Orleans, the Claiborne Expressway, a grant, and there are organizations in New Orleans that I'm going to share that with that can bring it down. I learn something new every day, but you have my information. I expect to hear from all of you. Thank you.
And let me just say this quickly. Thanks. It's always great to get with this group. Reach out to me. Find me on LinkedIn. McCoy, you just got to spell it right. Unlike the dean, it does actually have Mac in it. So it's Mac, MCKOY, Henry McCoy. Find me on LinkedIn. Every month I put out a newsletter. Ron has a newsletter. My newsletter tells all the money that we're putting out and what's coming and when it's due and all that stuff. So that's how you follow the money from that standpoint. And the last thing I say is advocate for yourselves. I tell people this all the time. Interesting enough, every letter that gets written to the president or anybody actually gets read by somebody and answered and responded to. So I get letters all the time, because depending on what they're asking, it goes to the area that needs to respond. We get letters from coalitions and advocates who say, we want this, or we want more of that, and so find a way to collaborate and come together and raise your voice, because the squeaky wheel does get the oil in that standpoint. And as much as we can stand up inside and we do, I mean, we do it unsolicited, we do it because it's our passion to argue for this. It still helps also when the folks that you're advocating for and arguing for also are making their voices heard, that we want a piece of this. As Malik said, your tax dollars are wrapped up in all this money as well. I mean, so it's not like you're asking for something that's not your. I mean, your tax dollars are a part of this. So just make your voices heard.
This is unprecedented. The money that's available right now at the department, you're talking about $400 billion. Billion with a B. I don't know if we will ever see this amount of money again in my lifetime. You would be a fool to not participate in some way, shape, or form. We do have a loan program office. We do have 17 national labs. We do have contracting work. We do have innovation work. If you don't know what SBIR is, you need to come see me, because it's a pot of operating capital for startup ideas. Okay? All federal agencies have them, 11 of them to be exact. If you don't know what they are, let me help you. We're the only agency that has a phase 0 program. First timers can use it, it's free, and you get a dedicated coach. This is the kind of thing that we're trying to do to make sure technical assistance is real and not just something that we talk about or that we just throw money at. So please engage with us. We're here to support you. Your success is our success.